We are breaking down the top breakout players of 49ers training camp, and there's actually a good amount. Today, in my opinion, was the best practice we have seen of 49ers training camp. Definitely the longest, but I think this practice really was representative of how good this team really is across the board. So, we're going to talk about today's practice, some of the big plays as my AirPods just my microphone. There we go. We should be back now. It's a good way to start the show. But we will talk about what stood out to me today. We'll talk about competitions, battles, one on ones, all these. Oh, there's some good stuff today. So I'm excited to get into this practice update and again talk about some of the players who are breaking out this year, and we could be in for a massive season for some of these players. But you guys already know what to do. If you're watching, drop an SDS in the chat, smash that like button. Let's talk about it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going down, faithful? Happy Saturday to you. If you were at practice, I'm sure you had a good time. If you weren't at practice, well, we got some good stuff for you. Uh, Honestly, today was a really, really good practice from a straight up football perspective. And you might be saying, well, what does that mean? Football perspective. It means both offense and defense had good plays, meaning sometimes the defense won, sometimes the offense won. It was a very, very quality practice today. And again, it wasn't perfect. And I think that is why I liked it so much, is because there were plenty of opportunities for this team to get out there and really compete. And that was the best part of it. We had a lot of guys return to practice today. We saw Nick Bosa return. We saw Aaron Banks insert back into the starting lineup at left guard. We got some Christian McCaffrey. Kittle was out there. Debo, Jawan Jennings returned to practice today. It was probably one of the more healthier participations that we have had so far. And I we might as well go right into arguably one of the bigger breakout players of 49ers training camp, and it's Dominic Puni. Dominic Puni has an absolute stranglehold on the right guard position. Now, obviously, we understand Spencer Burford was again available for warmups today. He had pads on, he had his hand wrapped, but once they get through initial warmups, Spencer Burford goes off to the side and then he kind of disappears. So it's been an interesting development what's happening with Burford and his broken hand, but Dominic Puni has absolutely taken advantage of his reps, arguably more so than any player out here. To be honest, this is my fourth year going to every training camp practice that's open. And you guys know that I always go and I watch the offensive line. This is probably the best transition I've ever seen from a rookie into the NFL at 49ers camp. And when I say that, I'm saying that Dominic Puni doesn't look like a rookie. And you guys have heard me talk about this on this channel plenty of times. I personally believe, I wholeheartedly believe the hardest position to transition to from college to the NFL is offensive line because whereas you can be a large human on the offensive line and beat college defensive tackles because they don't have technique. They might not be the most polished from that particular standpoint. And so when you transition to the NFL, every single defensive tackle you go up against is one, not only a phenomenal athlete, but they are polished technically. So it becomes a challenge, especially if you aren't a technically savvy offensive lineman to transition to the NFL. And honestly, Dominic Puni right now, he looks like a pro. You can we have enough padded practices now that you can start to make the case that he's been one of the best looking offensive linemen out of anyone at 49ers training camp. So to me, Dominic Puni's at the top of the list in regards to breakout candidates over the whole team, let alone the fact that he's a rookie. So that is absolutely a phenomenal sign for 49er fans. It's a great sign for anyone who is interested or invested in this 49ers team because as it stands right now, it does appear like Dominic Puni has the opportunity to not give that right guard spot back. No one's been rotating with them. No one has. He's Jonathan Feliciano's your backup left guard, backup center right now. He is not taking any first string reps. Now, Feliciano's been back at practice for 2 days, so that it could potentially be they're easing Feliciano back. But like I said, he's still running with the twos, just either at center or at guard. So I think Dominic Puni is right now you're starting right guard. And again, that can all change if Burford comes back or what have you, but what a development. What a development for Puni. Again, he's a 6th year college player. I think that has a insane impact on his transition because he's played so much football and he's played at so many different levels of football, and at each level he's had to elevate his game. He looks like he belongs. If you didn't know any better, you would have no idea that Dominic Puni was a rookie. You just wouldn't. I wouldn't. It's actually been fantastic. So Dominic Puni, one of the biggest risers, and as we stay on the offensive line, even though today, and I'll talk about today, even though today wasn't Colton McKivitt's best practice, I think he's been playing pretty well for the most part, and I think he's been showing up in pass protection and doing a pretty solid job. Now, today was a little bit different. McKivitz starting in one-on-ones. Leonard Floyd got him on an inside move, and Nick Bosa got him in an inside move very quickly. And, Leonard Floyd also got a win or two that would have been a potential sack in team period against McKivitz. But other than that, McKivitz held up decently well. So McKivitz has been holding up well. Today wasn't his best day, though. But that, I think, speaks better to Leonard Floyd and this defensive line with Nick Bosa. So I think I think that the 49ers offensive line is looking better. I think if we can continue to get more reps with this group and we can continue to see them build some continuity, I think we'll be in a decent spot. Obviously, you get Trent Williams back, the offensive line will look completely different. But if we're gonna talk about other breakout candidates for today, can Brock Purdy be a breakout? No. Let's talk about Jair Brown. I think Jair Brown is having a phenomenal camp. Today, Jair Brown had 2 interceptions on Brock Purdy. He's been playing really well. I might have to say the entire cornerback room is the breakout players of training camp. It's been fun to watch, man. Charvarius Ward is clamps. Lenore is probably the best player of camp today, or not of camp today. I'm just saying in general, Lenore has been playing lights out. He's been doing a really, really good job. And George Odom's even been coming away with a couple interceptions and stuff like that. So I'm really impressed with the 49ers secondary right now. They are absolutely balling out. On one of Jair Brown's interceptions, it was actually, to me, if I had to give an assessment of it, it felt more like tipped towards the overall coverage in general being so tight that Brock just let it rip. So this is how I saw it. The pocket was building around Brock and he was sitting in it. He had enough time. He was sitting in it. You could tell it looked like Brock was like twitching. Like he wanted to let it rip, but no one was open. I couldn't tell if I can't see the routes develop. Like I just see the outcome of the routes because I typically am watching kind of the pocket around Brock because I want to see what the protection looks like. I want to see if there's going to be a sack. I'm always trying to determine the pressure around the quarterback because that is a massive context to these plays because there will be a lot of times it will either be a coverage sack or a just would be sack, but they don't stop the quarterback from throwing it. They just run around the quarterback. So I'm always trying to determine where the pressure is, if it's a true pressure, if it's a sack, those types of things. So in this particular instance, the pocket's building around Brock. It's not the cleanest pocket, but it's not the muddiest pocket. It's right there in the middle. It's kind of a tight one where he's sitting in there, right? And he's reading the defense. You can tell he's kind of like waiting for someone to come open. I don't think anyone came open. So he lets it rip over the middle. Pearsall goes to try to like get his hand on it. It goes over Pearsall's hand and straight into Jair Brown's lap. So Jair Brown, hey man, you got to make a play when the ball comes to you. It's exactly what he did. And so that was his first interception. So for me, I looked at that pick from Brock as more of like he didn't like what he was getting, but he wasn't going to hold on to the football. He wasn't going to bail out of the pocket. He was going to just try. He's going to try to put it in a spot where only his guy could get it. But unfortunately, I think that spot was a little too high, and it kind of went over Pearsall's hand right to Tig. So that was the first one. The second interception that Jair Brown had, I didn't see the route develop in the same instance and context that I kind of explained. So when I saw it, I saw Brock super clean pocket, no pressure, and he just let it rip. And then what I saw was Jair Brown just sitting underneath the route like it went straight. It looked like it was intended for Jair. So definitely wasn't one of the prettier. It wasn't one of the more. It didn't look like a great interception on Brock's part, but again, I didn't know. I didn't really see how the route developed. So I didn't see how he was reading it. I just saw the ball come out and it went straight to Jair, who was sitting underneath the route on Deebo Samuel on the left sideline. Looks like they were coming horizontally across the field. And so Jair Brown got 2 interceptions today. I think this is his third or fourth interception all of training camp. Jair Brown's having a great camp. So that's a good sign. Like, and I know a lot of people, and shout out to you guys, man. You guys have done a phenomenal job of rationalizing these interceptions. I know last year, regardless of the reasoning why, there was just it was hard to understand and determine what the interceptions meant from last year's practice, just because there's such horrible context around the interceptions that people were getting fed. So a lot of people just didn't really know how to quantify it. When I'm looking at these interceptions, like, most of them are Brock trying to make something happen when something isn't necessarily there. So I look at this as the defense is making plays, right? These guys are making plays. They're making each other better. And this is exactly what you want. And this is exactly what football is all about. We're talking about Brock's picks right now. We'll definitely get to the deep ball in a second. But when I'm looking at this back and forth between the 49ers offense and the 49ers defense, this is how teams get better. This is how you elevate. This is how you improve as a group on both sides of the football. You compete. You fly. It got a little chippy today. We saw Lenore and Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings looked like he was blocking on the outside. We know the MO of Juwan Jennings. We know he is going to block beyond the whistle. Lenore's, locking him back out. You kind of had Juszczyk try to like separate them a little bit. They're kind of jawing at each other. And then not too long after that, Ezekiel Turner, I didn't really see it, but Ezekiel Turner takes Jordan Mason to the ground. Mason doesn't like that, and he gets back up, gets physical with Turner, and you get a little scuffle. I like that. I like that. I'm down. I'm down for that. This is football, man. This is a physical game. I like when it gets chippy. I think that's when guys are competing the most. When guys are getting intense, getting in each other's face, like, and it's offense, defense going at each other. I like it chippy. I think that's what football is about. Some people who maybe don't have never played football or whatever might see that as like, oh, you don't want guys fighting in practice. Hey, man, these guys have been hitting each other every day for about 2.5 weeks now. It's gonna get chippy. It's just a matter of time. So I like, obviously you don't want it to get crazy, but I like when it gets chippy, because I think that's when guys are putting in their best effort. So a lot of good stuff today, but also too, on top of that, just like Justin talks about, Brock's deep ball has looked much better this past week. I remember at the beginning of the week, one of the things that I had mentioned about Brock was that the deep ball, he wasn't hitting with a ton of consistency. In fact, he hadn't really hit one for the first couple of practices. So I remember I came on here, I said, so far right now, my only critique of Brock is I want to see him be more accurate on balls beyond 25, 35 yards. And I don't know, maybe I should say that more, because ever since I said that, Brock has been dotting them up. And he did it again today in practice. He had multiple dots, deep balls beyond 35, 40 yards. This one to Deebo Samuel was an absolute beauty. Just dropped it right in the bucket. You can see both of the defenders in coverage. just a beautiful ball down the left sideline, and the pocket was super, super clean. You can even see Dominic Puni kind of at the beginning of the clip push his guy out of the frame. So basically, ride him out of the pocket. So you can see him versus Givens. He's just going to ride him out. Brock does this little step up. Also, to this in this particular first team group, Feliciano was the center and Nick Sakel was at left guard on this play. And he just dropped it in the bucket. It really, really was beautiful. And he had a couple really nice deep throws. And so not long after this deep throw to Deebo Samuel, he came back and he hit Chris Conley for what it would have been about a 55, 60-yard touchdown where, again, another clean pocket. It's one of the if you guys have been rocking with me on my training camp kind of reports and updates over the last couple years, you would know that we've talked about not a lot of clean pockets. We've talked a lot about how, man, this defensive line, really taking it to the offensive line. This has probably been one of the best training camps for pass blocking that I've seen. You can make the case maybe in the last 4 years, and that's without Trent Williams stepping on the field. Brock has had clean pockets to work from. It's crazy. I'm not used to it. I'm not used to how much time he has. I think that's a fantastic thing. Now, obviously, one of the reasons why he's holding on to the ball a long time is because he's not finding open wide receivers. But hey, that is a welcomed improvement so far. And so on this particular play to Chris Conley, I didn't see how the route developed. All I see is the pocket. I see Brock release and then locate the receiver. And it's Chris Conley about 5 yards between the nearest defender and literally hits Chris Conley in stride, 60-yard touchdown, probably 35 plus, 40 air yards. Another dime deep downfield. So Brock looks so much better than what he did last year. And I know what you guys saw from Brock put up an MVP caliber season. Am I saying that Brock's been perfect in training camp? No, he wasn't perfect in last year's training camp either. Brock Purdy really struggled hitting deep throws downfield in stride with timing because he was coming back from a torn UCL. All the things that we talked about, all the context that we talked about. Well, guess what? Remember all offseason when I was talking about, guys, I think Brock is going to make strides with his deep ball. I think him being stronger, him not having to rehab, we are going to see that transition into him having a better camp in regards to pushing the ball downfield. Remember, it's not a crazy thought process, but for whatever reason, I seem to be the only one saying it. And even Brock spoke to that when he went on CanBR. He said the whole goal of this offseason was to put on strength. The fact that I'm not rehabbing and I can go retool my mechanics is going to help me push the ball more downfield. And that's exactly what he's doing. And he's having much more success than he had in previous years. So Brock is a riser. He's doing much better in training camp. Now, again, it's not perfect. I don't ever expect it to be perfect. It's training camp. It's practice. This is where you're supposed to make your mistakes. But so far from Brock, solid. You can see that Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall have a solid their timing on in breaking routes is pretty solid. Like so far, the early returns on that kind of early chemistry looks pretty good. Ricky Pearsall was working off the left in breaking route. Brock, it's a seamless, that seamless timing that we've gotten used to where Brock it's like hitch step, go, the ball's out, right? It's just such a fluid motion. Hike, hitch step, throw, and it's right on Ricky. Ricky goes upfield. Their timing looks pretty solid, all things considered, right now. You had one rep from Ricky Pearsall versus Renardo Green. Again, I didn't really I saw it, but I I didn't see it like with great clarity. But I saw Ricky versus Renardo as Ricky's working up his stem, probably gets to about 10 yards depth, and he just hits the turf. Now, I didn't get a good look. It was definitely a very physical rep, but he hits the turf and he looks up at the refs like, come on, man, you're going to throw the flag? That he is all over me. Refs didn't throw the flag, but hey, man, I'm loving this rookie class so far. I really am. I think Pearsall is going to be able to find his groove in this offense. Renardo Green is such a promising young cornerback. We haven't had a cornerback like Renardo Green step onto the field as a rookie and perform like this. I don't think it's ever happened under the Kyle Shanahan regime because Ambry Thomas struggled really early on as a rookie. Diamador Lenore, struggled a little bit as a rookie. Renardo Green is showing out. So I like what I've seen from him. Him and Yadam have been pretty solid. So the fact that you have those two guys as your third cornerbacks with Diamador Lenore arguably being one of the best, arguably being the best player of training camp, and Mooney Ward just clamps. Like, I don't even think Mooney. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, you know what? I haven't wrote too many notes about Charvarius Ward. You want to know why we haven't heard too many notes on Charvarius Ward? Because I think he's clamping the crap out of whoever he's guarding. Like, again, I'm not locked in on wide receiver, cornerback matchups when 11 on 11 start. I'm watching the trenches. I'm watching the pocket, watching how the pocket develops. Where's the pressure coming from? Those are the things that I'm looking for. And then once the ball is in the air, that's when I'm locating receiver DB and trying to get a sense of that before the ball arrives. But Brock ain't throwing the ball all that much towards Mooney Ward. It just really not happening. And I think that probably speaks to Charvarius Ward having a quietly good camp just because he's not getting the ball thrown his way. I remember when Richard Sherman had a phenomenal year with San Francisco 49ers. They would never throw him the ball. They would never throw his way. They would never look at Richard Sherman to try to get the ball out over there. And it's kind of like what it feels like we got with Mooney a little bit. It's just like, we're not going to even try that because Mooney's taken away our primary every single play. But also Debo, Debo's just, this is a different Debo that we're watching right now. It's a different Debo in the sense of God, I've talked about this when I've watched Debo so much. It's like he is such an energy driven player that you can tell when his energy is up or his energy is down. It kind of determines what kind of game he's going to have. You just kind of sense it. Like sometimes he's all the way up, sometimes he's kind of meh, and that's kind of how he plays. Debo is out. Debo is out here every rep like he's got money to earn. That's how he's playing. And although I think there's some truth to that, he has not missed practice. He has been out there every single day. He runs a ton. He doesn't run with just the first team. Runs with second team, and Debo's making plays. Now, so and he's making some plays downfield. So I mean, that's a good sign for the 49ers. A motivated Debo Samuel, a guy who's getting a ton of work early on in training camp. It's just I really think gonna build a callus for him so that he can stay healthier throughout the season. I think Debo's in for a big year. I've talked about it. I talked about it heading into this training camp. Like Debo's a guy that you don't want to bet against this year. You really don't. So I'm excited about him as well. Let's see. From a running back standpoint, Christian McCaffrey's Christian McCaffrey. I'm not really. I don't even think I've talked about him all that much, but part of that reason of why is it's Christian McCaffrey. We know who he is. We know what he is. We know how good he is. We know what he brings to this team. So I haven't really been highly focused on him, but I would say this. Ever since Kyle Shanahan made that comment about Jordan Mason and said nothing against Elijah Mitchell or whatever along the lines that he said, since then, Elijah Mitchell has been running phenomenally. Like, I don't know what it is. I've talked about it in some of my earlier reports of training camp where Jordan Mason just runs violent. He has this intensity to his style of running where every cut is intense. Every time he goes downhill, he's running 1,000 miles a minute. It's one of the reasons why Jordan Mason has been having a phenomenal camp. And, Elijah was kind of ho-hum. He had some good plays, had some bad plays, had a fumble early on. Kyle said that thing about Jordan Mason, and since that point, Elijah Mitchell has turned up the heat. He is now running violently, very physically, very intently, you can feel the sense of urgency coming from Elijah Mitchell. And that's why I love football competition. That's why I love it. Because I think that Jordan Mason getting that first carry on top of Kyle Shanahan saying what he said lit a fire under Elijah Mitchell's ass. And you can see it on the field. That's why I love football. Freaking love it. It's like, man, it's a dog eat dog, like it's dog eat dog world, right? And you never know when it's your time. And Jordan Mason's been playing really well. Well, Elijah has elevated his game. So that's a good thing for the 49ers. They both have been looking good. So I love that. So I think the running backs look good. Cody Schrader looks good. Oh, you want to know who looks good? Patrick Taylor. Patrick Taylor looks good. Patrick Taylor had a super nice run today. Patrick Taylor looks good. Dude, Kyle Juszczyk wasn't lying when he said this might be our best running back room. The 49ers running backs have been fantastic in training camp. So they look great. They look great. How's Jake Moody? Jake Moody's been good, man. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've been logging his kicks, but pretty much everyone that I don't think I've ever seen him miss. I know he missed one, and I clearly wasn't watching the one he missed. But so far, Jake Moody's been. I got zero concerns about Jake Moody. He's been looking good. He's been nailing his kicks. I feel like that I don't feel like that rookie nervousness is there anymore. You remember how palpable, like that nervous energy that I don't even think that it was all necessarily his fault, but I think everyone as a fan base had, like, how just nervous we were every time he would kick. I just feel like that's gone. I feel like he's settled in, and I think from a kicker's perspective, that's exactly where you want to be. So with Jake Moody, I have a lot of confidence in him because of the confidence that he's exuding. So yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. We made it through that rookie year, and that's always a hit or miss with these guys. But we made it through, and I think he's going to be better for it on the as we continue to move forward. So I think he's been looking really good. A guy who really stood out to me was Leonard Floyd. I thought Leonard Floyd looked hella good today. Leonard Floyd beat Colton McKivitz a couple times in team period. He beat Colton McKivitz so fast on a couple instances. I was like, oh yeah. I can't tell you today was a football practice. You might be like, well, what the hell are you talking about, Brad? Every day is football practice. Nah, today we were practicing. Yesterday felt like a bunch of zombies low-key sleepwalking through practice. Like it was just like, let's get through this. And I think that was by design. Today felt like practice. Today felt like one of the best defenses in the league going up against one of the best offenses in the league. That's what today felt like. And it felt like guys got better today. And that's the kind of football that gets me super, super excited, right? You guys know I'm a football nerd. I've watched a lot of practice, and I'm not saying even like 49ers football. Like when I played, I paid attention to practice habits, moods, energies, techniques, all those things. So I feel I'm very in tune with practice. So today's practice was a practice where I'm like, yes, we're watching one of the best teams go head to head with themselves right now. And that's where, like, if you're a football purist and like, people, I know how it is. People hear about mistakes and they start to like get nervous, like, nah, man, when this team is battling against each other, one side's got to win. Doesn't mean just because one side loses doesn't mean that means they're bad. I look at it as like, man, we see two quality groups, offense and defense, going head to head, and they are making each other better. So I'm really liking it. Jordan Elliott would have had a sack against Feliciano. Jordan Elliott has looked good, not to be confused with NBC Sports digital editor Jordan Elliott. So, dude, all the questions that I've had coming into camp have been answered, I feel like. I think D. Winters has been balling. D. Winters has been getting run with the starters. It's been Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles and D. Winters. But it feels like every time I look up in team period, it's D. Winters who is out there. And D. Winters is going to be a player. It might not be this year, but D Winters is gonna be a dog. So, I'm very excited about this development. I know we all saw the glimpses of D Winters last year in preseason, in some game like, we've seen the glimpses. D Winters is gonna be a dog, and I think one of the things that I'm really excited to see how he develops is as a coverage linebacker. I think he can shoot gaps. I think he's sideline to sideline. I think he's phenomenal. I think D Winters is gonna be a player that we could be really, really excited about, and when we see him kind of grow into that position, I think D Winters might come we might be looking at D Winters as like, "Oh, another late round hit," like, "Oh, okay, we needed D Winters to step up. We needed this draft class to make an impact." Kinda feels like that's what we got with D Winters. He looks solid. I'm loving the early returns on D Winters as well. Um, let's see, what are some of the other notes that we got from practice today? Oh, one of my favorite reps. One of my favorite reps was a sack today. And again, people might hear that like, oh no, a sack, that means our offense isn't any good. No, this was just our defense looking stout. Stout. So again, I've talked about it before. Leonard Floyd had probably one of the best practices I've seen from him so far. And Leonard Floyd put McKivitz in a blender a couple times. McKivitz got him back, but a couple times Floyd got him. And on this particular play, it was Floyd outside speed around McKivitz. So Brock's dropping back. He f- he he can sense Floyd is going to cut the angle and try to sack him. So what Brock does is he gets to his hitch in his drop, and then he goes because Floyd has one with speed on the outside. Purdy then goes to step up into the pocket to create a barrier between Floyd, McKivitz, and Purdy. And there is Javon Hargrave, who would have just sacked Purdy. And that to me is like, I swear I heard some like, oh, like it was so fun to watch. I love that relationship of speed off the edge, affecting the quarterback's spot and timing within the pocket, and then other guys cleaning up. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. And so when I saw that, I was super hyped. I was like, hell yeah. Like great rep by Floyd. Great job with speed. The speed forced Brock to step up. And because Brock stepped up, Hargrave was rushing up the interior and would have gotten the sack, killed the play. And I was like, hell yes. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Because I felt like we didn't have that on the other side of Nick Bosa last year. We didn't have that speed threat to just affect the timing just enough, just a half step of affecting the timing of the quarterback would have gotten Nick Bosa probably 5 more sacks last year. So that's huge. So for me, I love that. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. Someone asked about Robert Beal. So we got a Robert Beal sack today. Robert Beal got in there so fast. He abused Brandon Parker. He got past Brandon Parker so fast, like, he just ran past the quarterback, and then the quarterback was still sitting there like, like and Beal's just kind of like walking off. Like, he beat him so quickly off the edge. That was one of the first times. Like, again, that was one of the first times I've seen Beal just like really flash like that. And I was like, ooh, that was nice. Now, I think Brandon Parker will lose this job as the opposite swing tackle to Jalen Moore. I think it has to go to Chris Hubbard. I think Brandon Parker is a bit of a liability. I don't it hasn't been all bad for Brandon Parker, and I want to make that clear. But I think Chris Hubbard, so far from what I've seen, is the better tackle. Hubbard can play right and left. So I would much rather go Hubbard and Jalen Moore as your swing tackles at this current state. And I probably not going Brandon Parker. So, but to Beal's credit, Beal cooked him, just absolutely cooked him right off the line. What's good, big pun? Brian says, you think YGM will help at DN2 or just D tackle? Oh yeah, 100%. I think YGM, again, I think kind of how I had envisioned YGM fitting into this defensive line is how he will fit into this defensive line. I think we'll see him a lot on base down or run downs. That's where I kind of see where YGM will play on the edge. He'll have the opportunity to rush off the edge, but when you get into like NASCAR package, when you get into pin your ears back and go, that's when you're going to see YGM over the guard, in my opinion. I think that will be a great spot for him. And YGM's going to be a great piece on this defensive line. He's going to be solid. Dude, 49ers, man. Shout out to the roster construction post Adam Peters. The early returns, man, like Malik Collins looks good, Jordan Elliott looks good, Floyd looks good, Yetur Gross-Matos looks good, Devondre Campbell looks solid, Isaac Yiadom looks solid, Saubert looks solid, Hubbard looks solid, Patrick Taylor looks solid, Trent Taylor's having a resurgence. Like, shout out to the director of pro personnel, man. Whoever brought in all these free agents, I like it. I like it. I like it so far. To be honest, we have gotten an upgrade at right tackle. It's Colton McKivitz going into year 2. He looks way better than he did last year. So we did technically get an upgrade because he's going into his second season and he is playing a lot better. Like, yes, there were plays where he didn't win today. This was probably the toughest practice that McKivitz had. But prior to that, McKivitz has been playing very well. And that includes going up against Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa. He got them I think it was yesterday. McKivitz got Floyd and Bosa multiple times. But hey, it was their turn to get McKivitz today. And that's what I love about football. That's how you get better. That's how you improve. Colton is improving players. So we have upgraded at right tackle because Colton's gotten better. So that is an upgrade. So I like that. That sounds good to me. Now, is Colton McKivitz going to be a top 5 right tackle? Probably not. but that's not what we need him to be. We need him to do his job. We need him to be reliable, and so far, that's exactly what he's been. So I've been impressed with Colton McKivitz this year with what he's done. Today, he struggled a little bit. And when I say struggle, he just lost some reps. But it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad by any stretch. So there's also been, while we're on the topic of offensive line, there is definitely a competition that I'm smelling. You know, the 49ers don't broadcast their competitions. I think they do a really good job of kind of like disguising them almost. And I don't know if that's by design or just based on how they work their reps or what have you. But sometimes it's like, wait, are these guys competing or are they not? It's kind of hard to tell. I think what I'm starting to sense is Nick Sakel versus Ben Barch might be I think they're competing for that last offensive line spot. So obviously Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Feliciano, and McKivitz will make this team. Jalen Moore will make this team. Dominic Puni will make this team. Spencer Burford should make this team. But then it's like, then that's where the numbers game comes into play. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8 right there alone. Do they keep 9? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they manage this offensive line because with Dominic Puni's asserting himself as a potential starter this year, that really changes up the dynamic of the backups. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But just based on listing that out, it might be an uphill battle for either one of those guys to make the roster. But it does appear that they are competing. Nick Sakel's getting run with the ones. Ben Barch is getting run with the ones. So those are the only 2 offensive linemen who have consistently gotten run with the ones that aren't the starters. And I'm calling Puni a starter now. So, which is crazy. You know, we were on this. We were on this during mandatory minicamp and OTAs. Remember, I was like, "Where's Puni playing?" Because I think where Puni lines up is where he's going to have a shot at starting at. And we found out was like, oh, they have him at right guard. I was like, okay. So is he going to have a shot at starting at right guard? Well, if you take a look at practice, he is your starting right guard. So, and on top of that, too, is if Puni really does bring a level of stability, it's going to bring a level of stability for Colton McKivitz as well. And I think that's just a fact that people don't like to think about when they're talking offensive line. Many people talk about offensive line as individual players, but you have to understand that all 5 of those guys are operating as a unit. It's a team within the team. It's the only position that operates like that. And so you have to have continuity between all those guys up front so that they're all doing the same things. You have to understand what the guy next to you is going to do, what his tendencies are, what he's good at, so that you can overcompensate if you have to in certain areas. Then the fact that Puni and McKivitz are getting this run together this early on in training camp. And again, if we get into preseason and it's still Puni and McKivitz and they're working really well together, why would you change that? Now I get it. You got Burford, you got Feliciano. Both of those guys have shown that they can be capable starters as well. But clearly Dominic Puni is a starter of the future. He's clearly a future of this team in regards to starting offensive linemen. So if he's proving it right now that he can do it, do you bench him? He's already in the plans of the future. You might not have forecasted him starting this early on, but if he can, do you do that? So I don't know. The Puni dynamic is going to make this offensive line shuffle very interesting. Very interesting because I wasn't anticipating that it was going to happen this soon. I did not. I did not have that on my 49ers training camp bingo card. I thought he could do it eventually, but it just feels like that. It feels like he's taken over that spot. He's planted his flag on the right guard spot so far in camp. Now again, it's hard because Burford isn't available to compete for that spot. But again, if Puni's in your future plans, you want him on the field, especially if he's capable. Bozzy says, don't understand those who say it's our window because of our current talent. Aren't we great because we draft well and know how to build a roster? I think when people say it's our window, they're saying it's our window with our current core players. I think that's what they're saying. I think what you saw happen with not Aaron Banks, Eric Armstead this offseason, I think we'll probably see a couple more of those next year. I think what people are referencing is it's our window with this core group of guys. And when we say core, we're talking about Debo, Aiyuk, Kittle, CMC, Juszczyk, Trent Williams, Bosa, Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore. When I think people say it's our window, I think that's what they're referencing. They're saying it's our window with this core. And so the logic is if you lose some of those guys, then yes, that does kind of make it feel like your window is closing. If you lose Brandon Aiyuk, if you lose Charvarius Ward or Diamador Lenore in free agency, if you lose Talanoa Hufanga in free agency, if you lose Kyle Juszczyk, if you lose these guys that have been cornerstone pieces of this foundation that the 49ers have built upon, I think that's what is being referenced. That doesn't mean that they're not drafting well and they're not building a roster well. I just think it's more so about the core group because once Brock gets paid, you have to imagine that they might have to blow it up a little bit because of kind of the contracts that are hanging around the Niners right now. So, but I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the future of Brandon Aiyuk is with this team. I don't know. I don't know. So we shall see. That's my interpretation. I hope that makes sense. Because honestly, to your other point that you made in the super chat was, if they hit on Green and Mustafa and Pearsall and Puni and Cowing and Schrader, that's a pretty solid really solid ability to restock some talent. Hope there's a real comp between Brendel and Feliciano at center. I don't think I don't know if Forster is solidified yet in what he wants. Forster's a big Brendel guy. The reason why Brendel is your starting center is because of Forster. So for Forster to move off of that, he would really have to feel strongly about where Brendel is. And so I think as it stands right now, Brendel will probably be our starter into the season. Now, if Brendel takes a step back, maybe that's where something changes. But as I'm seeing it right now, I do think that it will be Brendel at center. But Feliciano has taken reps with the starters at center. That the big play to Debo Samuel. Feliciano was at center, Zakel was at left guard. So, but I don't know. We'll see. How's Trent Taylor looking? If we didn't have such a log jam at wide receiver, I would say Trent would have a good shot at making this roster. He's been playing well. I like Trent. Like Trent has actually been like he had a Tanner Mordecai hit Trent Taylor on a really tight window throw. And he not only did Trent snag it, but he instantly went upfield. It was crazy. Like it was like you had two DBs like this, and Trent got hit with the ball right in the window in between them. But instead of continuing his momentum side to side, he caught it and he like reversed upfield in between the two defenders into the open space. I was like, oh, that was kind of a I was like, that was kind of a OG move that he just did. Like he caught it in between two tight coverages, but he backed up. But when I'm saying back up, his back was towards the end zone that they were going to, and he went north south. He caught it, went north south, and that got him free from the two defenders. I was like, damn, that was low key. I was low key a sneaky vet move that he just made. But I've seen him have one drop. Everything else he's caught. He's had multiple touchdowns in red zone period. The problem with that is we have a log jam at wide receiver. Chris Conley had a hell of a day today. When you looked at the three wide receivers that were out there with the starters, it was Debo, Jennings, and Conley. So I would say Conley right now is ahead of Pearsall in the pecking order, head of Bell in the pecking order. But Bell has had a hell of a camp as well. And Cowing hasn't even been out there. We haven't even seen Cowing yet. So we don't even know what Cowing looks like in pads out here. I would say Danny Gray, the early Danny Gray hype has died off a little bit. Danny looked, and again, that was one of the things, like he looked really good without pads. I think since pads have come on, he has kind of been quiet a little bit. And I mean, even Tariq Owens has splashed. So I just think with Trent, it's it's a logjam. Week 1 almost here. It's a blowout. Yeah, I agree. We're gonna blow you guys out. I'm glad that you see it that way as well. And I like to see that Zach Wilson is still in your profile picture, even though he's a third string quarterback for the Denver Broncos. But hey, um, at least we both agree that the 49ers are going to blow out the Jets on Monday Night Football. So I'm glad that you came in here at least talking some sense, because sometimes we get other teams fans in here. They're kind of delusional. They don't really know ball, and so they'll come in here thinking they're going to beat the Niners. But I mean, as you can see, you know ball, right? You know ball. You know that the 49ers are going to kick your ass. So it's all good. It's all good. I appreciate that. We got football almost coming back. I'm always down to talk trash with some opposing teams coming into the chat. We're almost to that time, guys. He said Zach. He said Zach is still better than Lance. Oh, what a thing to hang your hat on. Hey, at least we got a fourth rounder for Trey. he said Zach's still better than Lance. Is he though? Dude, Wilson getting beat out by Jarrett Stidham right now feels bad, man. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. That was just a rough quarterback class. A lot of people whiffed. A lot of people whiffed on that one. But overall, man, when you look at this roster top to bottom, on paper, I felt like it looked good and there were some questions, but as we've gotten through it, I feel much better. I feel much, much better with where this team is at. And I think they're going to be really good. Zero updates on BA. The only updates that we have gotten are the handshake meant absolutely nothing. Oh my gosh. The handshake to me is like peak social media. It's just peak social media. I think that's what it is. It's just we live in a very reactionary world when it comes to sports. And so everyone wants to react to what they see. And so when you see Aiyuk dapping those guys up under the circumstances, everyone wants to react to it. And it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny to see how much that blew up, because that's why I love covering the 49ers. It's never a dull moment. Not one dull moment covering this team. Ever. As much as I try to be like, it would be nice to just have things quiet and peaceful for once and not have any drama. It's like, well, at the end of the day, the drama gives us something to talk about. I would prefer no drama, but hey, if you're going to have drama, at least it gives us something to yap about. A lot of yapping going on. Lots of yapping. Not a lot of substance. A lot of insiders apparently as well. I've never seen so many NFL insiders in my life. I think like 17 people broke the Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk has either signed a contract extension or he's been traded. There's been like 17 people who have said something about him getting a deal or getting traded. It's unbelievable. It's been pretty funny to watch, actually. Did you see that guy came back? that that original dude who started the Aiyuk rumor, one of the Steelers, what was he? He was like he was like an insurance salesman. He's like an insurance salesman saying that he's got inside sources like 2 or 3 months ago that Brandon Aiyuk was going to get traded to the Steelers. Um he came back. He said a deal's done. A deal's done between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. Just like, dude, shut up, man. Shut up. You don't know Jack Shart. Like, these dudes really just be saying stuff. Like, dude, just shut up, man. Like, you know absolutely nothing. You know nothing. You know nothing about what's going on. But hey, I'm glad your insurance salesman sources have let you in on it. It's unbelievable. It's been a wild time, but that's what happens when the 49ers are in the middle of things. It seeps into other spaces. That's how strong this brand is. That's how strong the interest is in this team. It's unbelievable. But I guess I picked the right team to cover for a living because there's always something to talk about. Literally always something to talk about. Even if we don't want to talk about it, there's always something to talk about. Um, Apparently, yesterday, BA was on a plane to Pittsburgh. Today, he was on his way to Cleveland. Reality was he was in Santa Clara watching practice. Oh, so good. So good. I love it. So all of that to say that no, there is no updates on Brandon Ayuk. It's still the same. We're still in the same boat. Still in the same boat. Um, I would say that they are still not in a place of getting a contract done. And what does that mean for moving forward? We won't know until it's announced. So no, we don't have an update. We don't have anything. Tyreek Hill got paid today. Like, dude, like I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but the wide receivers keep getting paid, and it's the market is destroyed. So if the 49ers aren't going to pay market rate for Brandon Ayuk, I don't know what does that leave us, because the market is the market. The market is dictated by outside circumstances. And so if you allow the outside circumstances to dictate a negotiation, then you have no control over what. So yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what is going to happen. Um, I like I said when all this stuff was going down, I'm 50-50. I'm right down the middle. It could go either way. He could return, he could not return. I don't know. I really don't know. So whatever. I'm low key. I'm low key really over it. So it is what it is, man. We got a lot of other cool things to focus on, like what's going on the field uh, at 49ers camp. So that's where I'll keep my focus on. I'll let the other insiders handle that business. That's not something I want to be involved in at all. But anyways, again, I thought today was a phenomenal practice. I thought there's a lot of really good stuff to take away from today's practice. I thought both sides made plays. Both sides were giving each other work, and that's exactly what you want. So, um, good practice. We'll see what the intensity is like tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be the same, but so far, today was a good day. Today was competitive. It was a long practice. We got good. We got not so good. Which means it was good because that means both sides were battling. So appreciate everyone for tapping in. If you're watching this stream right now, smash the like button on YouTube. That would be phenomenal. Today's Saturday, so we'll be back in Santa Clara tomorrow for another 49ers training camp practice. Guys, we are close to training camp being over with. We've got we got 3 more practices. We got 3 more practices of training camp. Then it's joint practices and it's preseason. And then we are ready to go. Season's almost here, ladies and gentlemen. Get your affairs in order because I hope you don't have any plans for your Sundays, Mondays, or Thursdays until February. So get all that good stuff out the way. Smash that like button. Grab your cookies on the way out. Shout out the SDS as always. Your guys' support throughout training camp so far has been phenomenal. Appreciate everyone tapping in on the instant reaction videos, all that good stuff. It is appreciated as always. Love you guys. I'm out. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.